What's good, everyone? This is Monaro, and welcome to my channel. I know it's been a minute since I uploaded one of these videos, so we're just going to pick up from where we left off. We're going to cover chapters 19 to 33, and I hope you enjoy. The small council meets to discuss the progress of the war, and Tyrion learns that Lancel is still near death. Randyll Tarly defeated the Northmen attacking Duskendale, and Helman Tallheart reported dead, and Robert Glover fleeing west and being chased by Gregor Clegane. Tywin informs them that Davin Lannister is rounding up a new army and will join with men from the Golden Tooth, and then march on River Run when Robb Stark returns north. They all agree that Robb will march for Moat Cailin, for he is a king without a kingdom. Kevin reveals that Balon Greyjoy has sent letters with terms of alliance. Greyjoy wants the North, but Tywin says they will not treat with Balon, while other options may present themselves. Littlefinger agrees to go to the Eyrie to marry Lysa Arryn, and once he is consort, deliver the Veil of Arryn into Tywin's hands. Since Littlefinger will be leaving within a day, Tyrion is named Master of Coins. Pycelle informs them that 300 Dornishmen ride for King's Landing in response to Tyrion's negotiations, despite the hatred between Dorne and Highgarden that has gone on for hundreds of years. Mace Tyrell does not like the idea of Dornishmen riding across the Reach. Tyrion considers how the Lord of Highgarden talked like a general, although he has never won a decisive battle. His victory over Robert Baratheon at Ashford was won by Randyll Tarly, and the siege of Storm's End lasted for a year without result until Eddard Stark relieved the castle. Garland Tyrell has been named Lord of Brightwater Keep since Alistair Florent is a traitor. Varys brings word of a three-headed dragon being born in Karth, and that the Night's Watch is begging for help against a wildling army. Lord Tywin does not want to hear about rumors of dragons, and is disinterested in news of wildlings, claiming that if the wall is overrun, the Starks and Greyjoy will have a new enemy to deal with, even speculating they may be able to make a deal with Mance Rayder, overriding the attempts of Varys and Tyrion to have Goldcloaks, who deserted during the Battle of the Blackwater, forced to take the Black. He adjourns the meeting, asking Tyrion, Cersei, and Kevin to stay. Tyrion warns them not to trust Littlefinger with this quest to the Vale, but Tywin is resolute, believing it better to have Baelish ruling the Vale as opposed to the likes of Jon Royce or Lyn Corbray, and adds that Littlefinger has proven his loyalty, telling Tyrion that just the other day, Baelish informed them of a plot by the Tyrells to bring Sansa to Highgarden and marry her to Willis. The Hand is aware that should Mace Tyrell ask leave to bring Sansa to Highgarden, they must consent or else offend the Tyrells. Tywin wishes to circumvent this problem by offering Cersei's hand in marriage to Willis. Cersei adamantly refuses, but her father has the final say, and Cersei storms out of the room in a fury. Tywin then tells Tyrion that he will wed Sansa Stark, further solidifying the Lannisters' position, because should Robb die and Sansa and Tyrion have a son, the child will become Lord of Winterfell. Tyrion protests, arguing that a marriage to Sansa is worthless, while the Greyjoys hold the North, and questions why he isn't being forced into a marriage with Balon's daughter, but Tywin counters that the Ironborn won't rule the North. They will just plunder it, uniting the Northmen against them, which the Lannisters can use to retake the North when Tyrion brings Ned Stark's grandson home to claim his birthright. Tyrion argues again, protesting that Sansa is still a child, but Tywin retorts with Cersei's testimony the girl has flowered. Tyrion suggests sending the girl back to her mother as a gesture of goodwill that might make Robb Stark bend the knee, but Tywin coldly retorts that if they do that, Sansa will be married off to one of the Northern or River Lords to shore up her brother's alliances. Tywin adds that this marriage is a reward for Tyrion's previous service, and threatens that if Tyrion won't go through with it, they will marry Sansa off to Lancel or another of his cousins and find Tyrion another bride. The threat of being married to lawless Stokeworth, as well as the prospect of being made Lord of Winterfell if he is to be denied Castle Rock, is enough to cow Tyrion. As a last attempt at protest, Tyrion argues that any claim Sansa might have to Winterfell will be made irrelevant when her brother gets a child from whichever Frey girl he marries, and learns to his surprise that Robb Stark has broken his pledge with the Freys and married Jane Westerling. Sir Kevin reveals that Lord Westerling's wife is a Spicer, a house of extremely low birth, having descended from traitors. Tyrion is confused by the lack of fury in his father's eyes at the betrayal by the Westerlings, a house sworn to Casterly Rock. Lord Tywin states, Jane Westerling is her mother's daughter, and Robb Stark is his father's son. Robb stands with all his bannermen attending as the bodies of Willem Lannister and Tion Frey are laid before him. The Great John brings Lord Rickard Karstark and 4 of his men to Robb as prisoners. Rickard, who was overcome with grief and anger, sought vengeance for the loss of his 2 sons. After Catelyn released Sir Jaime Lannister from captivity, he and his men murdered Willem Lannister and Tion Frey in their cells at River Run, killing 2 guards in the process. Robb orders Rickard's accomplices to be hanged and sentences Rickard to death, knowing that he must perform the execution himself, as both the Starks and Karstarks are descended from the first men. The rest of the Karstark men had already departed River Run to seek out and kill Jaime Lannister, also offering gold and the hand of Rickard's daughter in marriage to anyone who could turn the Kingslayer over to them. Edmure urges Robb to hold Lord Karstark hostage and not let the word get out to the Freys or Lannisters about the deaths of the 2 squires. But Robb feels he has been betrayed by the murder and has no choice but to kill the man whose 2 sons died defending his life. Robb carries out the sentence in the Godswood. That night, Jane comes to Catelyn for advice in comforting Robb, and the young woman promises that she will soon bear Robb's son if the gods answer her prayers. Brienne, Cleos, and Jaime are still traveling to King's Landing. They visit Maidenpool, but finding the town deserted, continue on toward Duskendale. Jaime has no success in provoking Brienne into a fight. He misses his twin and thinks back about their childhood. Even as children, they were close and they slept together. Once their mother caught them, she was shocked and moved Jaime's bedchamber far away from Cersei's. Jaime muses that he should marry his sisters as the Targaryens did. Suddenly, they are attacked by archers. Jaime and Brienne charge at them and the archers run away in the forest. They go back to find that Sir Cleos is dead. His horse threw him off, but as his feet were stuck in the stirrups, he was dragged with his head bouncing against the ground. Jaime takes Cleos' sword and attacks Brienne. Although he is still chained, he is confident that he can beat her. They fight for a long time. Jaime is amazed at her skill with the sword and realizes that she is stronger than him. Finally, Brienne beats him. When they look up, a number of men surround them. Jaime recognizes them as the brave companions. They quickly inform him that they have gone over to the Starks. Jaime and Brienne are severely beaten and taken prisoner. Jaime warns Brienne that she will be raped and advises her not to resist, as this will make it worse. He tries to save her by telling the brave companions that Tarth is called the Sapphire Isle and that Brienne will be worth a high ransom. He tries to persuade the leader of the brave companions, Vargo Hoat, in releasing them for a high ransom. Vargo Hoat replies that he will give Jaime's father a message. His men grab Jaime and hold him down. Zolo raises his sword and brings it down as Jaime screams. The outlaws first visit Lord Lyman Leicester and then the Lady of the Leaves in search of word on Lord Beric's whereabouts, but none have seen him, only hearing rumors that he was dead, hung once, killed by Vargo Hoat, Armory Lorch, and twice by Gregor Clegane, the same rumors Arya had been hearing at Harrenhal. But Lem and Tom know that Beric is still alive. The outlaws plan to ransom Arya at River Run after they meet up with Beric and Thoros of Myr. They arrive at High Heart, an ancient hill sacred to the children of the forest. 31 mighty weirwoods had stood at the top of the hill, but only their stumps remained from after the Andals chopped them down. Yet Arya could still feel the power of the place. The old dwarf woman speaks in private to Lem, Tom, and Greenbeard, but Arya overhears the conversation. The woman has dreams while sleeping among the weirwood stumps, and tells them she had dreamed of a shadow with a burning heart killing a golden stag, of a man without a face waiting on a swaying bridge. On his shoulder perched a drowned crow with seaweed hanging from its wings, and of a raging river and a woman that was a fish, dead with red tears on her cheeks. But when her eyes opened, I woke from terror. At Acorn Hall, Lady Smallwood informs them that Thoros had been through recently, and that Karstark men were searching for the Kingslayer. Arya and Gendry go off to the smithy, and the former apprentice explains that Thoros was a charlatan, using regular swords with wildfire to make his flaming sword. Daenerys and one of the master slavers in Astapor are discussing the purchase of Unsullied through a translator. Dany is pretending not to know High Valyrian speech, but she understands everything the slaver is saying to the translator. Crassness demonstrates the loyalty of the Unsullied, how the eunuchs follow every command given them and feel hardly any pain. Both Daenerys and Arstan are horrified by the conditions the Unsullied live under and the brutality of their training. The slaver indicates that he has 8,000 Unsullied currently for sale. Daenerys informs him she will spend the night considering the offer. Arstan is against the use of slaves when sellswords can be bought in the free cities. He insists that if Daenerys lands in Westeros at the head of a slave army, many of the realm's people will oppose her for no more reason than the abhorrence of slavery. Daenerys is, however, too proud to go back to Pentos as a beggar, not after seeing what it did to her brother, how bitter and angry constantly begging for help left him. Lonely since her husband's death and confused over Ser Jorah Mormont's advances on her, Daenerys takes Irri as a lover one night. The Dothraki handmaiden more than willing to sexually please her Khaleesi, but Daenerys finds no release, only guilt over treating her handmaid as a bed slave. The next morning when Ser Jorah comes to speak with her, Daenerys snaps at him. She despises Astapor and has only contempt for the Unsullied, but she still recognizes that they are too useful to pass up. Ser Jorah also gives Daenerys more food for thought on hiring the Unsullied, pointing out that they don't rape nor put to the sword the population of cities they've conquered unless specifically ordered to, minimizing the bloodshed that will inevitably occur when Daenerys starts the war to reclaim her throne. He also points out their usefulness in answering Daenerys' query as to why Astapor has never been sacked, since any enemy attacking Astapor would face the city's entire garrison of Unsullied. There are few neighboring cities and nations that pose a threat, and the combination of the Unsullied's reputation and heavy bribes offered by Astapor's rulers are enough to dissuade passing Dothraki Khalasars from attacking the city. Daenerys is tempted, knowing that Viserys would purchase as many Unsullied as he could, but she questions if she can be anything like Rhaegar, to whom Arstan and Jorah keep comparing her, if the loyalty of her men is only based on being bought and paid for. Ser Jorah points out that Rhaegar's honor and the loyalty he inspired in his men didn't save him from dying at the Trident. Traveling north to the Wall, Bran and his companions meet a little in the hills. The man indicates that the Bastard of Bolton is offering gold for wolfskins and for word on the walking dead. Later, Mira tells a story of a hero who might have been a Crannogman, judging from other characters in the story, presumably Howland Reed. During the year of the false spring, this Crannogman had left Greywater Watch and visited the Green Men on the Isle of Faces. Returning home, he stopped at Harrenhal for the great tourney. 3 squires accosted him and mocked him for his short stature, knocking him to the ground until he was rescued by a she-wolf. The story names no names, but from their references, we know who they are. The story tells of Jaime Lannister being named to the Kingsguard, despite his father's absence. Tywin had recently resigned his hand. The Wild Wolf had asked Ashara Dane, one of Princess Elia's ladies-in-waiting, to dance with his shy brother. The pup offered the Crannogman some armor so that he could take his vengeance on the squires during the tourney, but the little man turned him down. The Crannogman prayed to the old gods, and the next day at the tourney, a mystery knight called the Knight of the Laughing Tree defeated the knights whose squires had wronged the Crannogman. Instead of collecting a ransom from the 3 defeated knights, the mystery knight asked them to teach their squires honor. The Knight of the Laughing Tree disappeared before he could be unmasked, despite the fury of King Ares II. The tourney was won by Prince Rhaegar, but Mira ends the story by saying that what happened next is a sadder tale that deserves its own telling. Bran has never heard the story before, and both reads are surprised that Lord Eddard never related it to him. Davos, imprisoned beneath Dragonstone, is visited by Melisandre. The Red Woman tells Davos that her purpose is to keep darkness at bay. When Davos asks about the shadow she birthed, she tells him that Stannis is too weak, and should she draw more life energy from him, he would die. Melisandre tells Davos that there are only 2 gods, R'hllor and the Great Other, whose name cannot be spoken. They are opposites, white and black, good and evil, fire and ice. The other is the god of darkness, the soul of ice, and his war with R'hllor is everywhere and everlasting. Melisandre claims that the other's servants often hide in plain view, but the priest of R'hllor can see through falsehoods. She explains that she saw in the flames that Davos wanted to murder her. Davos admits to this, blaming her for the death of his sons who died in the Battle of the Blackwater. Melisandre speaks of a prophecy which portends that Azor Ahai will be born again in the light of R'hllor. She is convinced that Stannis is the embodiment of this prophecy. When the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amid smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. Melisandre departs, telling him that he, Davos, has served R'hllor once and will do so again. Later, Axel Florent brings his brother Alistair, Stannis' hand, and tosses him into the cell with Davos. Lord Florent is a defeated man, and he tells Davos that his nephew Imry died with the fleet, and that most of Stannis' bannermen were captured at the battle and bent the knee to Joffrey. He is now condemned as a traitor for writing a letter he planned to send to Lord Tywin, offering peace and suggesting that Stannis would swear fealty to Joffrey but would remain Lord of Dragonstone and Storm's End, and that the Florents would get Brightwater Keep back. In addition, he offered Shireen's hand in marriage to Tommen. Alistair rants that Melisandre's talk of a stone dragon, madness, sheer madness. Did we learn nothing from Aerion Brightfire, from the 9 images, from the alchemists? Did we learn nothing from Summerhall? No good has ever come from these dreams of dragons. Davos knows Stannis well and tells Florent that Stannis would rather die a king than bend his knee, and that he would never consent to wed his daughter to Tommen, a child born of incest. The night before the planned attempt to scale the wall, Jon tells Ghost that he cannot come with him and that they will meet again at Castle Black. The Magnar forces Jon to tell him more about the patrols of the Night's Watch, used along the wall. Jarl and Styr plan to climb the wall between Stone Door and Greyguard, where a hill rests between the wall, making for a shorter climb. Later, Jon and Ygritte spend time in a cavern which supposedly leads from the haunted forest all the way beneath the wall and beyond, but no one since Gendel and Gorn, the legendary Wildling twin kings, knows the way. As they make love, Ygritte asks Jon to stay with her and hide in this cavern forever. Daenerys tells the slavers that she wants all 8,000 unsullied, plus all the slave boys in training, whether they've been cut yet or not. In order to pay the slave masters, Daenerys offers all three of her ships as well as Drogon, for the price of a dragon is incalculable. Daenerys frees Missandei and takes her into her service, revealing that she can speak High Valyrian. We learn that Valar Morghulis means all men must die. That night, Quaithe appears to Daenerys, seemingly in a dream, telling her again, "To go north, you must journey south. To reach the west, you must go east. To go forward, you must go back. To touch the light, you must pass beneath the shadow." When the time for the deal to be brokered arrives, Daenerys swings the slaver's whip in Krasn's face and releases Drogon on him, shouting, "Drogon, Dracarys!" This is a sign for her followers to attack the slavers. With the help of the unsullied, who obey her as she is now their owner, she has the slavers killed. The other slaves join her, and soon Astapor is conquered. Sansa is dressing in the gown that Cersei had made for her, thinking to herself what it would be like to marry Willis Tyrell. However, her daydreams are shattered when the queen reveals that she is to marry Tyrion that very afternoon. Sansa does her duty, realizing there is no way out. Tyrion apologizes to her, saying that it was his father's wish to see them wed. During the ceremony, Sansa does not bend to allow Tyrion to place his cloak over her shoulders, causing embarrassment for the dwarf. At the feast, Garland comforts Sansa, saying that Tyrion will make a good husband. He is a bigger man than he seems. When the time comes to have them bedded, Tyrion demands that there will be no bedding. He has to threaten Joffrey to keep him from making the tense moment worse. In bed that night, Tyrion realizes that Sansa is petrified at the thought of losing her maidenhood to him, and he tells her that he will not touch her until she wants him to. Harwin tells Arya about the Battle of the Bells, where her father defeated Lord Connington, Aerys II Targaryen's hand, in a fierce battle fought in the streets of Stony Sept. Robert Baratheon was injured and hiding in the city when the Hand's army invaded the town. Many credit Robert with the victory, but the king always said that Eddard had won that battle. Arya is disturbed to find Northmen being starved in cages and gives one of them water. They are Karstark men captured by the Mad Huntsmen. The Northmen are guilty of rape and pillaging, and Anguy puts them out of their misery. The Brotherhood without banner spends the night at the Peach, a brothel. During the night, they hear a commotion and watch as the Mad Huntsman brings someone as a prisoner into the city in chains. Arya recognizes the captive. Jon is watching as Jarl's men are competing with the Magnars to see who will reach the top of the wall first. Many of the climbers fall to their death, including Jarl, but several eventually reach the top. As long rope ladders are dropped down to the base to allow others to climb, Jon notices Ygritte with tears in her eyes. She tells him that they had never found the Horn of Joramun, which would have helped them bring the wall down without a fight. On the way to Harrenhal, Jaime's wound is infected, and he is feverish from the loss of his hand, which has been cut off by Zolo. At the camp, some of the bloody mummers come to raid Brienne. Jaime knows that if she resists, they will probably kill her, so he advises her to take her mind far away. He recalls when Aerys cooked Lord Rickard Stark alive while Brandon died trying to rescue him. Jaime did the same. Brienne is stubborn and wants to resist. Jaime saves her by yelling, "Sapphires!" loud enough for the goat to hear. Brienne thanks him as Jaime considers the debt revenge that he owes to Vargo Hoat and his bloody mummers. A Lannister always pays his debts. After reaching Harrenhal, Hoat presents the Kingslayer to Roose Bolton, who is disgusted that the mummers hacked off his hand. He has Qyburn cleanse the stump and bandage it. Jaime asks Qyburn to see to Brienne's wounds as well. Tyrion visits Simon Silvertongue and thinks to pay him to leave King's Landing, but the singer wishes to join the tournament of singers that will take place during Joffrey's wedding. He blackmails Tyrion by indicating that he will tell him about his relationship with Shae. Tyrion promises him that one of the other singers will be removed, and Bronn will visit him in 3 days' time. Outside, Tyrion orders Bronn to kill Simon. Later, Tyrion's father shows him the 2 new Valyrian swords that he made for Joffrey and Jaime. Master Tobbo Mott reworked the metal, and the color of the blade on each sword is black and red. House Lannister has not had a Valyrian sword in hundreds of years, and try as he might, Tywin could never get any of the lesser houses to sell theirs. Where the steel for these new swords came from is not revealed. Tywin tells him that he must consummate his marriage to Sansa, and that Mace Tyrell rejected the marriage proposal between Cersei and Willis, probably because the Queen of Thorns told him to. Pycelle brings dire tidings from the Wall, and that Maester Aemon fears Lord Mormont is dead. Tywin tells Pycelle to send a veiled message that no man shall be sent to the Wall unless Janos Slynt is considered for the post of Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Tyrion thinks to himself that he should have had Slynt and Pycelle put to death when he had the chance. "44 survivors have reached Craster's keep of the 300 men the Watch had at the Fist. Some of the men are becoming ornery because there is so little food, and Craster seems to be hiding a larder. Mormont speaks with Sam about Dragonglass, noting in disgust that the Watch once knew the purpose of obsidian weapons. Their true enemies are the others, but they had forgotten. Craster soon makes it clear he wants the crows gone, and several members start to accuse him of not sharing all his food. The argument worsens until finally Craster attacks Clubfoot Call, beginning the mutiny at Craster's keep. Dirk slits Craster's throat, and when Mormont screams at them that there is no crime worse than murder at a host's dinner table, Ollo Lophand stabs the Lord Commander. Sam watches in horror as the deserters begin to rape Craster's wives, and sees that few men still loyal to the Watch flee because they are outnumbered. Gren, Giant, Dolorous Ed, and a few others get away. Mormont, dying, commands Sam to return to the Wall with all haste and tell everyone what has happened. He also asks Sam to tell his son Jorah the Mormont's dying wish is for Jorah to take the Black. His last words to Sam are, "Tell Jorah, forgive him, my son, please go." Sam is approached by Gilly, who has recently given birth to a son, and 2 of Craster's other older wives. Gilly asks Sam to take her with him to flee on horseback someplace warm. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you for stopping by and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to come back for more. Again, thank you for watching. Bye.